Canon just dropped the C50, a cinema camera that finally blurs the lines between the cinema lineup and their hybrid R series. But here's the question, does this new camera make the R5 Mark II feel a bit outdated, or are they created for two different types of people? Stick with me because by the end of this video, you'll have a little bit more of an understanding as to which one fits more in your workflow and which one may honestly slow you down. My name is Stanley, and let's jump right into it. Now, just to be clear, the C50 was just announced today morning, so I haven't gotten a chance to test it out or anything yet, but with the spec sheet and the positioning that Canon has put online, it's pretty clear as to where they want to try to fit this camera in. One thing I've noticed is this is not an R5 II versus C50 conversation. It seems like one's more for people who lean more cinema, and the other one is just hybrid flexibility. So let's break it down. 3 reasons as to why you may want the C50, or 3 reasons as to why you may want to pick up an R5 Mark II. Now, camera tech has gotten a little wild. We've gone from 4K sensors to trying to cool 6K, 7K, and 8K sensors, which I understand naturally can be a little bit of a thing. But we all know what happens when a hybrid camera overheats. The C50 is compact, but it's actively cooled. It's got a vent on the side, front, and back. It's a little bit thicker because of those vents, I'm sure, but when it comes down to it, I'd rather have a sensor that I can use for longer periods of time because it's cooled properly than have all these features that I can only use for as long as the camera will allow me to, because I'll always have overheating in the back of my mind, or even when I just start to see the symbol pop up, it just doesn't make the experience a really good thing. And then let's just talk about size. I know that active cooling does make it a little bit bigger, but even with that being said, this camera is still smaller than a lot of typical Canon cameras. And one of my favorite things about my FX3 that I miss was that camera allowed me to kind of blend in. It wasn't really like a big camera. You compare it with a very small lens. It was one of my favorite things. It wasn't asking for a bunch of attention every time you walked around places. It kind of kept you under the radar, and it was cool because you can go film in places that you typically wouldn't be able to film. Now we get to talk about a new feature that this is the first Canon camera that's ever gotten it, and that's going to be open gate. Open gate isn't just about aspect ratios. It's quite literally the freedom of being able to take one take and use it for TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, whatever you want. And one of the coolest things is the C50 even allows you to shoot different aspect ratios to different memory cards. For crazy people like me that like to keep things super organized so you know what's what, that's going to be something that I didn't even think I needed, but just blew my mind, to be honest with you. And this is nice because I could have obviously done open gate with my Lumix a while ago, but I've always had the R5 Mark II and I've always wanted this one feature because just how often are clients asking for different formats from the same project? Now with this feature, I can finally say yes without the compromise of having to chop down 16:9 footage. The third thing I really like about the C50 is the thing that makes it the most cinematic to me, like the thing that makes it a cinematic tool. That's going to be all the buttons. There are literally buttons everywhere and you can assign them as you please. You can program the Super 35 mode, you can have something to change the dual base ISO from the first to the second one, LUTs, whatever you want. There are a ton of buttons on this camera and I love buttons. And if you imagine comparing that to a hybrid camera, I would rather have some easy access to certain features than having to go through the menu of a hybrid camera, because in reality when you're out and about, it's not just a luxury, it's quite literally time, and you know, as they say, time is money. Alright, let's get into the first of the 3 reasons I'd pick the R5 over the C50, and that's going to be my favorite, which is a mechanical shutter. A mechanical shutter on a camera is something I feel like is kind of disappearing. If you look at cameras like the Nikon Z8, it doesn't have one, the Z9 doesn't have one, and it's something I hope that Canon will keep around for a while because it offers things like cleaner stills, I get less rolling shutter, and for me the biggest thing has always been banding. I'm sure this feature has been fixed here or there, I'm sure, but the last camera I had with an electronic shutter was the ZVE1, and I was at an event for my cousin, and I'll never forget, those photos got ruined because of the banding that I got from those images. I tried the anti-flicker mode and everything, but there was just nothing I could do, and it was the only camera I had on me because I was trying to treat it like a hybrid camera, but it was from that day on I swore that if I'm gonna have a camera, mechanical shutter is a must for me. Handheld shooters, this one's gonna be your superpower. The R5 II's IBIS is something that makes run and gun footage feel a little bit more cinematic, and I say a little bit because yes, it's got IBIS. It can get a little warpy here and there, but it's still better than not having IBIS in my opinion. If you're walking across a scene handheld with no gimbal, this is one of those things that can kind of help you get that footage looking a little bit smoother. Can the C50 do that? Nope, it's just something that you would attach to a rig or a tripod. I know that Canon mentioned that it records some data so that you can stabilize it in post, but they didn't really say anything about gyro data being collected, so I'm not sure how good that will be. In a nutshell, are you someone that's looking for as small as a rig as possible, or are you someone that's okay with kind of creating one of those big cinematic rigs? Finally, in a world where everyone's competing for who's got the best monitor and, you know, nits and all that stuff, I personally believe the EVF is really underrated. I live in Texas where the sun is bright most of the time, and sometimes no matter how many nits you have, it can be pretty hard to see in the sun. That's typically when I pull my camera up to my face case, I'm looking in the EVF and it closes everything out. I understand there's other options to be able to block the sun from your monitor, but again, I'm one of those people that want the smallest rigs possible, and there have been a lot of times where the EVF has come in clutch. On top of that, the R5 II has got the biggest EVF I've seen on any camera, and so it's to me one of the biggest pluses of this camera. Alright, so let's wrap this up and put it into plain terms. I think the Canon C50 is for a dedicated filmmaker, someone who wants to take some long takes, attach it to a car, flexible open gate, customizable buttons. I think the R5 II is more for hybrid shooters, mechanical shutter and video in one body, stabilized hand shots, and an EVF that can really save you if it's really sunny outside or for any reason you just needed to see something in a locked off space. What really gets me about this release is that Canon is giving us options. Not everyone wants to go up to a C80 or a C400, and not everyone wants to give up the flexibility of a hybrid camera just to go fully cinema. Instead of asking which one's better, I would ask which one's going to fit into your workload. At this point, I've had to ask myself if it's better to just get a C50 and pair it up with my R5 Mark II. Now I'm starting to understand what the Canon look is more like. Stay tuned for that. I'm going to actually make a dedicated R5 video later. But either way, I'm just happy that both exist because it just shows me, especially with OpenGate, that the direction that Canon is moving in is one that I like a lot. And if you want more breakdowns like this, not just suspect them, feel free to subscribe because I think it's these real world insights that really help you figure out if this works in your workflow. The truth is, gear doesn't make a creator, but the right gear can free you to create without friction. Comment down below if you have any questions. Let me know what you think about the C50. I'm excited to see more myself, but yeah, if you have any questions, if I can help in any way, feel free to comment down below, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Peace.